So, you know, we all have a story and we all want to be heard, but we also all want to hear other stories. Mine is about faith that I know now that it's faith, but when I was younger, I didn't always know that's what it was. I knew at a young age that I was kind of different from my family. I wanted different things. I come from a family of alcoholism, of drug addicts, and I love my family. But God, at a young age, knew that He was taking me on a different route. And I can remember as early as age 4 seeing domestic violence in my household. I remember guiding my little sister. I was 4, she was 2. I remember specifically seeing, I can vividly still see this, my dad holding a gun to my mom and then aiming it upward, thank God, to the ceiling and firing it. And I remember at that time the feeling of being scared, but then not being scared, knowing that something was going to protect us. And like I said, I'm 4, so I don't know everything about faith and about God. So looking back now, I know what it was. As I'm growing up, you know, situations happen in the household. My parents divorced. My mom became an alcoholic. My brother was killed at age, I was in high school, and I remember him being killed. And me, I was 17, I want to say, having to go find my mom and going to tell her what happened. God was guiding me, and I still, at that age, I had been in church. I knew that there was something, I just didn't know what it was called. But I found my mom. I had to tell her. We were at the hospital when the nurses came in, and I was in the room by myself, the little waiting room that they have where you sit, and the nurses coming in and telling me, a 16, 17-year-old, your brother passed, you know, let your parent know. And I'm just kind of dumbfounded because you don't do that, and I knew you didn't do that. But again, I remember telling my mom, the feeling just was overwhelming, but I still had this peace within me. I remember another time where my dad was almost killed, and knowing the peace that I had within me, I just couldn't explain it. I just knew that there was something that was keeping me going. Throughout life, there's so many situations of death, of harm, of things that come to all of us. I know in a few years after that, my sister and her situation, she became a drug addict. The family situation was really bad. I had already moved away. I knew at a young age that I wanted something different. And so I had moved away, and my sister was involved in a relationship, and she ended up getting murdered by her boyfriend. It was a very high-profile case here in Dallas, and I remember driving up, well, I remember getting the phone call, waking up to a phone call that said, "Get over here quickly. Your sister has been stabbed." And you get these phone calls and you just feel this panic come over your body. And I remember throwing on my clothes real quick, getting in my vehicle and just saying, "Lord, give me strength." And I felt this just complete peace come over me. It was unexplainable, but I knew what it was. You know, I get there, the situation was not good. The fire chief was there, from the fire department, and he said, "You know, we normally don't do this, but I need you to be strong and go tell your parents that your sister didn't make it." Again, here's a story of revealing to me that I have to go be the strong one and go tell my family what's going on. It was very difficult, but I still was very composed, I didn't understand it. I didn't understand, how can I be so calm in this situation? There's so many stories in my life that have gone like this. And again, it is because the faith. I know that my mom prayed over me. I know my grandmother prayed over me. I know people were praying over you, so it's real. When your family prays over you, there's something there that it makes a difference. Not too long after that, when my sister was killed, you know, I had a biological son, and God had always promised me that I would have another children. Well, I was faithful, and I knew that if I kept my faith, you know, I'm older, I didn't realize it, but through that tragedy of my sister, I ended up getting her son, which is my nephew. I raised him since he was 5 years old. He is my son. And, you know, life has a way of showing you, God has a way of showing you that we don't only have to be faithful to Him, He's faithful to us. What He tells us, what He shows us, His word is faithful to us. And having him at 5 years old, going through a lot of trials with him, it was difficult. It was sad. My heart was broken for him. I'm an adult. As adults, we learn how to control our feelings. As children, they don't know how to express their feelings. And I know that faith, again, you will hear that word from me so much, because I'm such a true believer that the faith that I have, I say have because my faith is so strong right now. Sometimes it scares me because I feel like I'm abnormal. But growing up with him, you know, he ended up, you know, going through some trials himself. And unfortunately, he chose to walk the wrong path. And so finding out that your child, not only your biological child, but your other child, you know, are dealing with things, it's hard and it's heartbreaking. We were involved with the church, very much so, all of our adult lives. And when I was married, I was going to my church. I grew up Catholic. He was going to his church. He grew up Baptist. And there was always something off in that relationship. And I knew that if something were going to work, we were going to have to come together, go and find something that we can both go to, a church that we could go to. And we did. That's when we found Pathway. We decided to go to an event that night, and they were so welcoming. And it was amazing. We became members in 2005, and you know, just became part of it, became part of the ministries. And then again, you know, things happen in life. My husband at that time, he was an usher. He was working with the pastor there, and it was hard because he was so full of life, and he ended up having a stroke. We didn't know from day to day if he was going to survive. The doctor's diagnosis was very grim. He spent 30 days in ICU, then he went to rehab. But what was so strong was my faith that we were going to survive, that this was just something we would deal with. We went from 2 incomes to 1 income when he had a stroke. Then when he was released from rehab, he needed 24-hour care, and either I would have to provide it for him or they would put him in a home. And that's not what we wanted. And God guided me. I left my job. So 2 incomes to 1 income to no income. God provided. If I were to write everything down on a piece of paper, we would be negative in the hole every single time. God provided every single time. The faith that I had at that time, it was like I knew, I always didn't know where it was going to come from, but I knew that it was going to come. We didn't have to sell our house. We didn't have to sell our car. My boys were in private school. We didn't have to pull them. Everything worked out. Now, does that mean that there were not tough times? No, not at all. There were tough times. And you do what you have to do at the time. We went to pantries. It was hard for me to ask for help because I was very independent. We were very independent. But I learned very quick that it's okay to ask for help. So going on a few years later, he ended up having another stroke that took his life. My boys were, one was in college, had just started college, and the other one was having a really tough time. He was going down the wrong path. I tried to, I did everything I could to try to help him, but because of the death of his mom, he didn't know how to deal with it. But after my husband passed away, it was different. I had to relearn to find myself. When you're in a relationship or any type of relationship, you become with the other person, and learning to refine yourself was hard, but I did. And only through the grace of God. God has guided me, and I know without a doubt that He's the one who has me why and where I am today. At this point in time in my life, I know exactly I'm supposed to be here. I know that without a doubt. But it was still, it was a struggle. One thing that I do know is that through this, even though we didn't have that income, we were living off of Social Security, his Social Security, God told us. He told us to continue to tithe. And in my mind, I'm thinking, how? We barely have enough to survive, to pay our electric, to pay that. But we were faithful, and we did. We still tithed what we could. And I will never forget, at church one day, they had cardboard testimonies, and we were asked to be part of that. And our cardboard testimony was that there was over $1 million worth of debt, and it had been wiped clean. And I know without a doubt that only God can make something like that happen. There's no way that you can have $1 million worth of debt just disappear. But thank God that He took care of us. And I know that it's hard to see it sometimes, but I knew that in my heart, this something was in my heart that I knew that I was not different from others, better than others, but I knew that God was taking me on a different route than any of my other family members had ever been. After we're there in church, and after he passed away, like I said, I refound myself, and I asked God, I said, Lord, if you ever see fit to bring somebody else into my life, I was very adamant and said, I need this. I need, first of all, somebody who is God-fearing and somebody who is going to be there for me and help me and guide me. And I've been blessed. I don't know how many people in their lifetime can say that they have had a love of their life, but to have two loves of your life, that is, I can't describe it, but I know without a doubt that faith for me has gotten me to this point. My faith that I have is, I know what it is. I know what kind of God I serve. My friends would always tell me, you're so strong. How do you get through this? You know, you've been through this, 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 this. How do you do it? And my answer is always the same. It's not me. Because had it not been for the faith that I have and for God, there's no way I would make it. Especially knowing my family history of alcoholism and drug abuse, I could have been one of those. I thank God. I thank God I thank God for what He's doing in my life. I thank God for where He's leading me. I thank God for the people He's surrounding me with. I thank God for my children. You know, I also have now another child that I'm raising that, as I told you, God promised me children. You know, when God promises you something, He doesn't always tell you how it's going to happen. It just happens. So, you know, here I am at my age. We're raising an 8-year-old. I've had him since he was 8 months old. And I wouldn't have it any other way. God saw fit for me to take on this challenge, should I say? That He knew what I needed. He knows what we need. If you stay faithful and you stay doing what you're supposed to do for the Word, you know, He will make a difference in your life. You know, not too long ago, I questioned what was wrong with me. How can I get through all of these events that have happened in my life, tragic events? And I asked Pastor Kelly if I scheduled a meeting to come talk to him. And I sat down and I started talking with him and telling him all this story of all this and so many other things that have gone on. And I said, what's wrong with me? I seem like I can just keep going. And it's like, it's not that it doesn't affect me, but I just keep going and I can move on. And people are always like, well, you know, what's wrong with her? She's not grieving. She's not this. I do grieve. But Pastor Kelly reminded me that God will give us the peace that surpasses all man's understanding. And when He told me that, I felt like this weight was lifted off my shoulders, because I didn't realize that He was really giving me that much peace in everything that I've dealt with or gone through. As I said, we all have a backstory. We all have a backstory. And I think if you're willing to get out there and talk to people and listen to people, I think we can really make a difference in other people's lives by just sharing. You never know who is going through something similar that you're going through, but don't know how to express it or don't know how they're feeling. Maybe they think, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Like I did. I just don't know what was wrong with me, because I felt like I was just going and going and going, and you know, a tragedy would happen and I keep going. But I know without a doubt that my God is what keeps me going. My God is the one that has me here where I'm at. And I'm looking so forward to what He has in store for me. I know it's big. I feel it. He's working on me now. He's working on me now. I have this excitement inside of me that I just want to get up and shout all the time and praise His name. And I know whatever it is that He has for me, that I will do it wholeheartedly. So I really just want to say thank you. Thank you to Pathway of Life Church. Thank you for welcoming me when I did come in, for being there for me, for still being there for me, for guiding me, just for the love that you feel when you walk in. You know, I don't think there was a time that I ever have walked in and felt out of place there, as there have been at other places in the past. Not that it wasn't for me at that time, but when I needed more and God guided me to Pathway, I'm so thankful. I'm so grateful that He guided me there for my Pathway family. I love you all.